Adam Blackstone was just nominated for an Emmy for music direction for his work on the Super Bowl halftime show with Jennifer Lopez and Shakira. I'm Kevin Jacobsen of Gold Derby here with Adam. And to start, you are in a really good category this year. You
Yes,
have the legendary Sheila E., who's nominated for the Prince tribute. You have the team
yes.
from SNL. You also have Ricky Minor double nominated for the Oscars and the Kennedy Center Honors. What does it mean for you to be in that company and to get that recognition from your peers?
First of all, I just want to say thank you, Kev, for having me. I
Of course.
appreciate it. I'm excited to be, nominated in that category. We cannot forget my mentors, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, who also are
Mm-hmm.
co-MDs with the phenomenal Sheila E. for the Prince tribute. So it, you know, this is my second nomination. The last, I must say, this feels so different. It is full of minorities, full of people that I look up to and know. I think that's the biggest difference for me this go round is that, we all hopped on a text thread with each other that morning and just congratulated one another. The nomination already feels like a win to be in company with those magnificent people that I've looked up to for a very long time. So it feels good. And it also, I feel like, validates the work. When we are called to do a gig, any gig, that could be a local church gig, a jazz gig around the club, or the Super Bowl. We're not doing it I am not doing it for the recognition for the world. I'm doing it to create a great product for myself and for myself to be proud. So when you're recognized by the Academy and then your peers to tell you, hey, this work was a great body of work, it makes you feel good for the hard things that you went through to get through that process.
Well, take us back to the early discussions when you knew that J-Lo and Shakira would be performing together, how you got involved, just those early stages.
Yeah, so Ricky Kirshner, one of the producers of the Emmys, of the Super Bowl, he gave me a call and said, hey, this thing is happening. It's called the Super Bowl. I worked with him with Justin Timberlake's Super Bowl 2 years ago as well. He was the producer of the halftime. And at that moment, I think we didn't know the magnitude of what it was to have two headliners. This was a first for the NFL. This was a first for Pepsi, for the whole production. We've always seen super duper guests come in, whether that be Beyonce with Bruno or Bruno with Coldplay or, Missy come in with Madonna or, Chili Peppers come in with Bruno. But it's never been announced that you're going to see those people. It's always been the surprise element. So to announce two headliners is a big deal because the first obstacle that I ran into was, man, this show that we're forcing into the middle of a football game is already short. Both of these women have catalog that span, J-Lo had just did a Vegas residency, you know what I mean? And Shakira had just done like FIFA or something super huge globally. And so now I was charged with the task to make their condensed time of a show feel like a headlining moment for each of them. And so I think that was one of the biggest initial mental and creative challenges right off the bat, knowing that we had 14 minutes. I remember how I was crunching Justin Timberlake's 14 minutes. And now I had to split that in half and do it for two people. You know what I mean? So.
Well, I want to talk about both of them kind of individually, starting with Shakira. She opens it up with singing She Wolf, and we get a lot of her hits. We got Empire, Whenever,
Yes.
Wherever, obviously Hips Don't Lie. What was the discussion with her about, which songs from her huge catalog to include there?
So Shakira is one of the most hands-on creative people I've ever worked with before. Once Jennifer and her chose me as the common denominator to bring both artists' vision to light, I flew to Barcelona and met with Shakira. There was a statue of her at the airport. And so I can honestly say the pressure and the magnitude of who I was going to see instantly rose. You know what I mean? However, I will say I'm very confident in what I do. The ladies chose me for that. That's one of the reasons they chose me, so that I could give them perspective on the show and the creative. So what I tried to convey to Shakira, she had a long set list, hit songs that, like I said, are global, international hits. But I tried to at least let her know, hey, the audience for this game may know this side of you, so we can't skimp on that. We have to give them the American hits along with infusing the international things in there to represent her Colombian culture for sure. You know what I mean? That was always the goal for both women, is to, you know, be who they are. And so we went through a few, when I say few, I mean 20 set lists. And we ended where we ended, and I think it was a great choice. She knew what she wanted to do as far as opening the show with what songs, and then we also, you know, I tried to infuse like Cashmere and some big, you know, familiar rock tones in there to please our audience as well. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about some of those kind of outside the box segments. The Cashmere inclusion, Bad Bunny comes in at one point to perform "I Like It" with
Yeah.
her. Can you talk about the thought process of those more creative choices there?
Yes. I think the Cashmere thing was really just a nod to music in general, and how music really unifies us. No matter what genre, no matter what race, no matter what gender, the music unifies us. So when you hear Empire and you hear it get big on the chorus, that reminds us of a place that we have been with Cashmere and what that feeling is. You know what I mean? And it all correlates. You know what I mean? As far as Bad Bunny is concerned, there was talks early of who our guests would be, and his name floated around early. And I remember I told Shakira at her crib, I said, it would be pretty cool if you sang the chorus of the original, you know, "I Like It Like That." And I must be honest and say, one day I got to release the tapes, but it was way longer than what it was. We had to actually condense it to what it ended up being, but she actually sang that whole verse originally. "Here and now, the time is great. Boogaloo, baby." You know what I mean? Like, she sang the original. And so it tied it into what was popping here in the States. You know what I mean? So that's how that came about.
Well, then with Jennifer Lopez, she starts with Jenny from the Block, which is a great choice. There's Get Right, Waiting for Tonight, On the Floor. What was the collaboration process with her as far as the hits that she wanted to highlight?
Now, I must say with Jennifer, she was right out the gate pretty much knowing what she wanted to convey, because she had came from, like I said, the Vegas residency. So I think she knew what worked for her audience. And then it was just my job to kind of like sketch it out and condense it to fit into the super medley with the time that we had. So knowing that she wanted to span her catalog, show her hip hop, show her R&B side, show her EDM house side with the Waiting for Tonight, and then for sure show her roots and her Latino culture. That was pretty much how we weaved in and out of that music to make sure it was linear enough to give people the hits that they remember her or may not even remember that she had. And then also the bigger picture was to show them unification of music.
And then in this section, you had J Balvin, and there was this mashup of a few of his songs plus some of J Lo's songs. How did that all come together?
Yeah, so Que Calor is one of Jennifer's favorite songs. And it was brought up that he could like sing the hook of that. And because of our time constraint again, Love Don't Cost a Thing was a song that we couldn't actually complete in that set, but it was one of our favorites and one of people's favorites. So we thought about mashing and how to mash that up going into Mahente with our guests and Paris Goebel, the choreographer for J-Lo. You know, me and her spit some ideas back and forth, and Nappy Tabitha Demo, the creative director for J-Lo, like, you know, we all just spit, and Kim Burse, who's also a music creative for J-Lo, we all just spit ideas back and forth, and that Mahente happened with Balvin's blessing. He was like, "Ooh, this is hot. This is fire." And we also know Mahente is how big and popular that song is. So we wanted to put my whole thing was, let's put a spin on it so it's not like you've seen or heard the same version before. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And in the end, they come together and they perform
Yes.
Get Loud and Waka Waka.
Waka Waka.
There's an all-girls choir, which Jennifer's daughter, I believe, was included there.
Yes.
Was that kind of a tough process figuring out how to bring the two of them together for this big grand finale?
Ooh, you have no idea. Just the word finale in general took on so many different meanings. We were all unified in the message. It was just about how we get to that last moment where they both can be there. Waka Waka, I had just seen work for the international FIFA thing, and just how big in football that it was. Let's Get Loud embodied so many different genres of music in one song, and then it also just, you know, was an upbeat, fun thing that, you know, Shakira was super excited to hop on as well. So we went through about 7 or 8 different finale moments, but landed where we landed. You know, one of the things Jennifer was very adamant about was the children, which included her daughter, Emmy, singing that first verse, which resonates so loud, no pun intended, in the time that we're in right now with minority women, with children being taken from their families, and, you know, her exclaiming that this is not right. Family is first. Music can unify us, and how can we get past this with a global message of happiness? And so she was very adamant about that verse standing out in a way that it did. So I'm glad we were able to, you know, have her vision. I'm glad I was able to bring her vision to fruition, and, you know, I was a proud moment for me.
And seeing it all come together, happening live, what did you think of just the response to the halftime show from the audience?
Yeah, so, you know, in the moment, I'm at work, so I can't really, I hate to say enjoy, but I can't really enjoy it as much as I did after the fact. You know, watching it back, seeing the comments say it was a great show, and the ladies hitting me up and, you know, saying how happy they were. In the moment, I'm a little bit like tunnel vision, you know what I mean? Like wanting to pull this off, making sure my band is cool, making sure we are in sync with the dancers and all of that. But the response was overwhelmingly pleasant. People recognized, you know, I think the hard work that we pulled off. Something like that had never been done before. Like I said, to reiterate, the 2 headliners in that short span of time. And so for people not to feel like they were slighted at all too, You know what I mean? Like, that's the biggest thing when you think about a catalog show. Everybody has their favorite song. Something is going to lack a little bit. But I really feel like, as a Shakira fan, you got a big dose of her. As a J-Lo fan, you got a great big dose of her. And then if you're not a fan of each of the other ladies, you became a fan that night. You know what I mean? Because they showed you something that you may not have seen or heard before. So I was excited to be a part of that. And that was my job, is to make sure everybody saw their greatness, heard their greatness.
Yeah, and I definitely think they did.
Thank
And
you.
just going back to the Emmy discussion, you were nominated at the Emmys a few years ago for the Justin Timberlake halftime show.
Yes.
Did you have any fond memories of that night, attending the ceremony?
I do. Me and my wife, man, we were like a kid in a candy store, you know, walking around, seeing people that we admire, becoming peers with some of the just great talents in creative arts and creative culture. Um, I remember the after party after losing, and you know, just some of my peers who I had not known, like I said, the first go around, and just saying, "Hey, man, we appreciate what you do. You know, we all saw what you did, and it was great. Keep going." And those encouraging words from elder statesmen that have been nominated before, have won Emmys before. You know, John Legend called me, and we hung out that night, and Benj and Paul, who are great friends of mine, you know, they continue to encourage me. You know, Ricky Minor as well, just continue to call and encourage me. And I think it's gotten me to this point where knowing that if you do good work for yourself, you will be recognized for it after.
Yeah, that's a beautiful message to take
It
away.
is.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Adam, for your time today, and congrats on your Emmy nomination, your second
Thank you,
one.
Kevin. I
Yeah,
appreciate that, man. God bless you.
you too. And for those of you watching, hit like and subscribe for more interviews with Emmy nominees, and head to goldderby.com to make your winner predictions.